that it was because of a certain group of people, and that they interfered to stop it. And he mentioned Serbia.
I can confirm that that's the case, that the Serbian office, which really has been around for 20 years, no matter what name brand the computer is in your nation running elections, underneath it's Serbia's connecting. That office got shut down for 5 days. I understand it got smoked. But in some kind of strange, somebody did take some action and neutralize that, which is the only reason we have a fair election.
Yeah, so I'd heard that special forces actually hit it. So I don't know if that's accurate. I can't say that for sure, but from my contacts and people have been talking behind the scenes, that's what I've heard. So go ahead.
And I think that's what Byrne kind of gets into is that they'd gone in, refer to them maybe as white hats. I'm not sure, gone in and taken that data center out, which kept the 2024 election right a little more accurate, if not completely accurate, because this is Trump.
No, it's a little bit more accurate because you saw all the states that had anyone could vote. They didn't have a voter ID. All those states went against Trump. California, the left coast pretty much, in Illinois, New York. So that I think Trump team allows a certain amount of fraud to come through so people can see it, but they're for the most part in control. Of course, they're anytime you're at war, you can get tripped up. I've been in war quite a bit, and you can have the best laid plans. Every operation I ever went on, it never turned out the way we planned it. So you have to be very flexible, and that's what a lot of people don't understand, because some things will be put out like this is what we're focused on and we're in control, but then something happens and you say to yourself, well, does it look like you're in control because all this other stuff is happening? But there is that level of control where you allow or know that some things might slip through, but still you're in control.
Interesting. Michael, go back to that Ben's clip. Your viewers will want to, I think if it's queued up, go back to that and play that if you can. That's a real interesting one.
Talk about let's see this. Where Patrick Byrne was speaking. Is that what you're talking about?
No, the Mike Ben's clip. It was that would be Visas for Al Qaeda. That's the book that Springman released. You had clicked on it at one point, but Michael Springman.
Spring that one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
3 years ago, we had 15 of the 19 hijackers get visas from the CIA's consulate at Jeddah.
15 of the hijackers, 15 of the 9/11 hijackers got visas from the CIA's consulate in Jeddah. That's John Brennan, CIA Director John Brennan, back when he was the head of the CIA consulate in Saudi Arabia, Jeddah, Saudi Arabia.
See, I like how you're saying that. The CIA's consulate. Very good.
Yeah.
15 of the 19 hijackers got their visas from John Brennan. Let that wash over you. Redux. All that stuff about him getting people's passports is just so that he can get visas for terrorists. The same thing the CIA won all day long for the 9/11 hijackers, 15 of the 19 hijackers. It was John fucking Brennan and his CIA consulate who did that. One has to almost wonder if John Brennan with his Ukraine emoji in tow, one has to wonder if it's visas for terrorists. Redux.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's a little bit deeper.
So let me explain what he did there. And that's a compilation. That's a clip that, like I said, Mike, when I spoke to him, he hadn't heard of the book. So I just took his video and I did some things. But that's what that is. That's me making a video of the clips from his hour and a half kind of dive and dig into John Brennan, comparing him to Ryan Ruth. And what he's getting at there, Michael, is he's saying Ryan Ruth was likely a contractor of the CIA, or possibly directly employed. He hadn't seen any evidence to show one way or the other, but Ruth is assigned with basically getting passports pushed through for Pakistani, Afghanistani fighters to fight in Ukraine.
Yep.
And so that's where that parallel with John Brennan comes into what Springman was doing allegedly for the CIA and Brennan in Saudi Arabia, basically doing the same thing.
Same thing. Yep.
That's what that was.
Wow.
So this is the question I had. So I had to cut you off. This is the question that I have is, if that is accurate, if that report is accurate from Mike Benz, then is it plausible to conclude that perhaps bringing in what Patrick Byrne is stating regarding John Brennan still owning the top two layers of the CIA, and I don't know what that means exactly, I haven't asked Byrne, but if that's true, then we can say he's controlling the CIA now, not Ratcliffe. And if that is accurate, then could it have been that John Brennan employed Ryan Ruth to put a hit on Donald Trump?
Huge. Yeah. So it makes sense to me. So that's interesting because John Brennan is no longer supposedly employed anywhere within the CIA or any other place. He's an independent public figure now, but he still sounds like he's still running the show from behind the scenes. So he needs to be taken down and removed, because he's going to continue to do that, obviously, run these problems. So great stuff on your site. I mean, I'm clicking, everyone that's watching, I'm clicking on, you have click here, you talk about the Hamilton 68. I just clicked on that, and that was what I had up on the screen. So all of these, all this information, you go to, Ian's website, and you're going to find all this stuff. Really good stuff. And your book, if you get it in Kindle form, I have it in every form, but you have it in Kindle form, because I listened to it and over and over again. I've listened to stuff over and over again. I'm like, what? Like, I've listened to so many chapters over and over again. Chapter 7 is really good. I like chapter 8. I'm re-listening to chapter 9 again now. So when I work out, I have lots of time because I work out a long time. So it's amazing how you've collated all this information. You have links to everything. I mean, you could get lost in the information that you provide, go down so many different rabbit holes and just go deeper and deeper down these rabbit holes. I love that. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. And this capture of Maduro, if you ask me, the capture of Maduro was not about oil. Donald Trump, and I've been pretty close to him. I don't know him. It was a brief kind of minute. He strikes me as a true patriot, right?
Yeah.
A guy that just wants his country to receive what it deserves, which with our constitutional republic,
Really
it deserves to be the best country on the planet. It is. Well, let's keep these nefarious outside influences at bay. Certainly keep communism out. But yeah, that's Donald Trump. He just wants to make his country great again. That's what I believe he is as a person. And with that said, I lost my train of thought, and I'm not sure where I was going with that, but it might return. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, he's definitely working to overcome a lot of this stuff, and I've seen his work, and there were times where I questioned it deeply. Look at what he did with the vaccination program.
Yeah.
Warp speed.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? Like,
Right. Yeah.
and because that is really bad. But I believe that he got out the good stuff, the uncompromised stuff. And I've heard that from many other people that have the know about all of that stuff. And they said that he was pushing out as fast as he could the vaccination. He was using the military to do it, keeping it safe so that they couldn't, because there's a lot of stuff that was ready to come out that was compromised. And I
Yeah.
knew this before it even started, before the vaccination program started. So I was like, what are you crazy? You're like going to get all this
Right.
compromised stuff out there so fast? But he was trying to, thwart their plan, because their plan was going to be a longer term, lock us down. It's going to take a while to get this vaccination, just like all the other vaccinations, and they're just going to lock us down and just get more and more control. And he blew that agenda away. And it eventually got to the point where they're like, well, you're going to have to let us come into your house and vaccinate you. And everybody was like, you come into my house and you're going to get blown away. And that's when it all stopped. So thank
Right.
God we have a Second Amendment. Otherwise we would be like all those other countries that, their countries, all the other countries around the world pushed it and made everybody get vaccinated. So horrible.
Yeah. It could have been some brilliant chess playing on his part, or it could have been naivety. I don't know, but you're right. That Second Amendment saved us. I got a knock on my door from a census worker. They wanted to hand me some literature, but in order to do that, she wanted to test my temperature. Like, I mean, I said, no, you get off the property immediately. You're gonna get a bullet in your head.
Really, yeah, very
But-
good.
I got my thought back, and so what I was talking about was Maduro. So I'm like, the one angle would be, okay, Trump went in to take Venezuelan oil, or keep it from going to the Chinese,
the
and
drugs.
Russians. Look, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that's possible.
I agree with you. I think I know where you're going. So
And so having Maduro in there be to hopefully testify in regards to Smartmatic,
yes,
will be huge for that 2020. But Michael, it seems like there are so many roadblocks, either in his administration or tied to his administration, from getting this thing going. I'm seeing that same thing with the Brennan, right? I mean, I can't get the Daily Mail spent 3 days writing an article on this. The editor approves it, then it's squashed by their legal team. Miranda Devine, who's known about this story for over a year and a half, I can't get the New York Post to talk about it. I've spoken about some of the people at Newsmax that know about it, taking interest. Can't get Newsmax yet.
wow.
I think it's going to happen. Can't get Newsmax to take it on, but you just keep pushing. So where is that kind of the blockade in his? Was it with Pam Bondi? Who was she? She didn't get anything done, in my opinion.
No,
She got
absolutely
some
not.
things done, but
And now we're getting
Todd
stuff
Blanche-
done. So, but how long will that last? Is because Trump will allow people to take these positions to prove themselves. He knows they're compromised or have been compromised. It's like, okay, now's your chance to shine and overcome all the bad that you've been doing in the past. So he allows people to do that, I believe. And so we'll see, how the Attorney General does now. But it seems like he's crushing it. There's people in the wings waiting, though. If he doesn't perform, there's so many people that are going to get put in that position so fast.
The CFO, I never recall her name, but it usually comes up in a Google search, public domain search. The CFO of the DOJ happens to be a former Interpol agent, which strikes me as curiosity, and I believe she retains the position. I don't recall her name, but that was actually that was given to me by one of the people putting on. There's an event I sent it to your wife, Michael. There's an event in June in Vegas on fraud.
Yeah.
And I'll be
Yeah,
speaking
we're going
at
to that. Yeah.
Oh, you're going to go to it? Okay, great.
Are you going to it?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yes.
Excellent.
Maybe
Good to meet you. Good. Yeah. I went to the one we did a bond fraud, and I was at that one. This one's going to be way bigger because it's going to go into the election fraud too.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm looking super forward to it. The other thing, Michael, that was given to me in this kind of association to the group that's putting that event on was a CIA program, and I don't recall the name of it, but supposedly there is a program that was used to actually put to create a bio and a character for Barry Soetoro, and then build him up and put him in the office that he eventually got to in our government. And part of that was manipulating passport, which we know John Brennan did back in
Oh, yeah.
2007. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I saw you spoke about that. I don't know if it was in a book or somewhere else, but he was involved in that, and he was the one that got Obama into office. He was there. It was contacting the CIA or whatever, if you want to call it that.
Yes, and there's a tie to Zygmunt Brzezinski somehow. Can you hear me? I don't know.
Yeah.
I just got it. Okay. Yeah, there's a tie to Zygmunt Brzezinski, which I've got to spend more time digging into. I haven't done it yet, but there's a tie of John Brennan, right? So he's a student at the University of Texas, Austin. He's a communist sympathizer. He then votes for Gus Hall, the Communist Party CPUSA candidate for president, Communist Party USA. He's stated this on lie detector tests. And somewhere in that realm, we're talking late 70s, early 80s, somewhere in that realm, he's tied to the former Carter cabinet member, Zygmunt Brzezinski. And that somehow envelopes into this propelling of Barry Soetoro. Keeping in mind, we've never seen his transcripts, but supposedly he was a student at Occidental and then Columbia University in New York. And during that time period, he took over a year off from studies to be in Pakistan. And this is what Brennan scrubbed, supposedly, in 2007, while he was kind of a candidate for president. Brennan is again involved in scrubbing vital information off of the records of this fellow we know as Barack Hussein Obama. And so that is another question: is what information was scrubbed? Why was it scrubbed? Why do we still to this day have issues with some of the records? I mean, there's transparency issues throughout, right? The entire recorded being of this individual who became the president of the republic. But Brennan again being tied to that.
Yeah, and the last time that Trump did the press, White House press, dinner was when Obama, like just excoriated him, and that was because he was going after him for his birth certificate, and so I guess the press, ganged up on him and made him look like a fool, and so Obama was like making him look like a fool, and now he's president, and he had the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and there was a shooting there. Very, very interesting how that all played out. So.
Right, right, and the same hotel Reagan had left when Hinckley took a shot at Reagan.
He was shot, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, the Brennan stories, right? There's lots of different angles, shoot offs from the way I look at it, right? I'm seeing things through my lenses. The Brennan stories, in my view, Michael, only symbolize the overall encroaching power of the institution that John Kennedy wanted to splinter into 1,000 pieces. That's posted in the New York Times as being his quote, the Waldorf Astoria, in the news, a press meeting. So even going back to '63 and before that, perhaps there have been some issues of encroachment, I think, of the Central Intelligence Agency manipulating things that they shouldn't be manipulating. And if one were to ask me, I would say that John Brennan was chosen by the powers that be within that organization because of not only his communist sympathies, but also his sympathies to Islam, right? And John Guandolo has stated he and I have been trying to connect and talk, so I'd like to know what he knows. But he has stated, former FBI, he stated that Brennan is a convert not only to Islam but Wahhabism, which is a very violent, aggressive sect of Saudi, based in Saudi Arabia, or at least incepted there, of Islam. And this would be John Brennan, right? John Brennan tied to Wahhabism, according to John Guandolo. So for those two sympathies, I believe that Brennan was used, most likely, Michael, to help create and build this figure that we know as Barack Hussein Obama.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the
I don't talk
communism.
about it in the book.
Yeah, okay. The communism part is like, monumental. All the stuff that he was involved in, and then the Wahhabism that you're mentioning right now. Now the book, I have a chapter in the book right here. We've been talking about a little bit about this, the Kindle version, and you talk about the Brennan's 401 account, $50,000 to $2.6 million. Then April 2011, the company Brennan owned stock in, Sotera Defense Solutions, taken private, $24.95, and then he goes up to 4.4. Eventually, I think it goes up to 4.8 at some point. So sadly, yes, and John Brennan's fingerprints are all over the evidence of when you go close. Do you think that this is what's going to take him down, or is it going to be something else?
So I've been in contact with somebody at Chuck Grassley's office. Grassley's a senator that's been outspoken against Brennan. That individual has an electronic version of this book, and I'm hoping that he goes through it. I recently was invited to an event down in San Diego where I gave a copy to Ted Cruz and his assistant Victoria, that told me that she'd be going through the information. I've just been connected to someone that may be able to make an introduction to Comer and the House Ethics Committee, so I can file a complaint. And just a tidbit, in California, Chad Bianco is a fellow, and I met Michael. Just to segue briefly, I met both Hilton and Bianco, and I'll just state my experience with Hilton was not positive. He seemed very arrogant. He says, "Oh yeah, I talked about Brennan quite a bit on my show. Well, I think you should look through the contents of the book." No, I didn't have time for that. So Hilton was not a guy that I'd be voting for.
No, he's a City of London guy. So yeah, we don't want him.
He's a city, yeah, Murdoch, right? So, and then Bianco says, "Oh yeah, I got a copy of the book on my kitchen counter. It was nice to meet you." He was very cordial, very polite. But going back, Michael, going back to answering your question, this should be like low-hanging fruit to get this guy, because the SEC documentation up until 2017, after Trump kicked him out, he continues to file Sotera Defense, the Analysis Corporation that became Sotera. He continues to list it on his SEC documentation, where we know back in 2009 he was supposed to relinquish this. They were supposed to cash it out, transfer it into an IRA. This is low-hanging fruit, but I do believe that's probably if, outside of these perjury charges, and I'm trying to get more. I haven't been able to get to Quinones yet, and I'm trying to understand more about what's in the perjury charges, that lying to Congress in 2023 that came down from Jim Jordan, that South Florida subpoena. I'm trying to understand a little bit more about what's involved in there, but to really nail this guy, it'll probably be these financial crimes. Outside of those crimes, then it would be a more lengthy process to convict on felony charges in regards to the conspiracy that he used, right? Michael Jones as an unwitting analyst to kind of, NATO can get him. Norway can go after this guy right now. We talk about Noriega, right? Noriega faced charges in the U.S. They also faced charges in France. But and I left a copy of this by the UN at the Norwegian consulate office in New York. Didn't hear anything back. But yes, this is the financial crimes are the one aspect that should be able to get this guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I
You know, I
mean,
don't know if they're going to be the one. But go ahead.
you look back in history, Al Capone, they got him on tax evasion, and that's what put him away. So there is a way they can, you know, go after the money, and that can take somebody down. So it sounds like that, and because his treasonous stuff is just like over the top. Wow, it's a wonder he's still walking now. Everybody says all roads lead back to Obama, but Brennan put Obama in office. So maybe we really need to be looking at Brennan. I would say that Brennan is going to be the next guy, the next person that goes down. That's what a lot of people are saying. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it really should be. He should be the next guy to go down. Let's you know. Granted, they can get Comey on this. I don't know if they can or not. The 8647, some other stuff they have on it, but Brennan is in my view he's probably the more important, and he's probably the most important person to take down right now because of the tide of the global war on terror, how he manipulated that to enrich himself, and then again, it might expose other elements of fraud regarding that that terror, that war on terror globally, not only tied into the FBI, you know, not allowing the FBI to do their job in regards to the Boston Marathon bombing, but you know, now we're going back to, as you stated, 9/11, and what the CIA knew and didn't act upon to and really jeopardize, right, and ultimately harm homeland security on the homeland, right. But we can dig even deeper, and I think if this individual falls, which is another reason he shouldn't, and when I say fall, I mean being held accountable for his crimes. And if it's treason, it's treason. Then the Constitution calls for death penalty. I mean, that's just the way it's written in the Constitution. If we collectively are able to do that and hold him accountable for these crimes and ultimately for treason, then that is going to obviously, right, blow the lid off of the deep state. Right now, I would say this is because, Michael, because of his ties to Cambridge University. And again, that brings in Patrick Byrne, who's doing a lot of singing, if you will. That's kind of a term out there. He's trying to clean things up, expose things that he knows. Because of Brennan's ties to surveillance out of Cambridge University, and how that intertwines MI6, how that intertwines with CIA, and of course Christopher, the Steele dossier, Christopher Steele, Sir Richard Dearlove. There's other players involved, of course. Then that is going to blow a hole in the bow of the one of the most important ships of the deep state, in my view. I mean, it's going to be a heavy hitter, which is why Roger Stone has stated that this book is of the most important and shocking books he's read in his 50 years in politics. It carries that much weight.
Yeah. Now back to, and this is, we'll just like Brennan, if we take Brennan down, we could take so many others down, like Hillary Clinton. You know, the both of them are tied together, because Brennan backed the Russia hoax, you know, the Russia collusion would get Donald Trump elected. He was all over that, and of course that was Hillary Clinton. You know, was not elected because they're saying the Russia hoax happened. So what do you think the ties are? I can tell you, when I was in the CIA, Hillary Clinton, when she was head of the State Department, she restricted the security guys, I being one of them, from getting our passports renewed. Because she was in charge of that, you know, because we had diplomatic passports. We're not going to go overseas without a diplomatic passport. You know, we have to, you know, take somebody out. We got to be able to have diplomatic immunity for that. So she was restricting that. I don't know what kind. No, till this day, I don't know what kind of game she was playing. She was trying to obviously manipulate them to get some kind of concession or whatever it was. But yeah, she in her own way was extremely powerful. In a lot of different ways. Of course, you know, CIA was running drugs through Mena Airport in Arkansas, and she and Bill were, you know, tied into that. And the Clinton you know, how many people have died from the Clintons that are opposed to Clintons? It's like over 100 or something crazy. So who's doing the killings? They're not doing it. So somebody's doing the killings, taking people out because they're getting too close to the truth and might expose one of their operations or manipulation. So again, that dark side that seems to be running alongside the constitutional good, we the people part, which is always seems to be compromised by that side. And taking somebody out, it's almost like when Biden got in office, they just came after us like crazy. The FBI, just everything. We're coming after conservatives and people that were for the Constitution and everything. They were just trying to destroy everybody. J6, all that stuff was just a real crap show, right? So what is going to happen if a Brennan gets taken down? Because it's almost like both sides don't want to get involved in that. Because if the good side, they're like, we're in power now, we're going to do stuff, and then when the bad side gets back in power, they'll crush them. And I think that's why neither side really does anything against each other.
Yeah, they're ultimately there's interchange at the very heights of that power, right? So there's this, I think I mentioned it last time, perhaps there's this whole kind of concept of a dialectic, a Hegelian dialectic, which is what Anthony Sutton wrote about extensively after he left his fellowship at Stanford Hoover, where you're even Prescott Bush, right? Prescott Bush, and this is what Sutton talked about in 1972. This is why I started the podcast in 2016. Sutton exposed at a GOP convention in 1972, Miami Beach. He exposed Prescott Bush's intertwinings with funding through Union Bank, which he was a president of, the Nazi regime, which meant ultimately that as London was getting bombed, basically it was getting bombed by American fuel, the Luftwaffe, right, and on General Motors engines. And this is the type of thing that Sutton is talking about. So there's a manipulation of both sides, I think, perhaps, and that's kind of the great question is who exactly are the shareholders of the Federal Reserve, right? Which is essentially funding the political machine in DC. That's not public information, and it's not an institution that ever gets audited. So in regards to the outside foreign global influence of that quote reserve, which we know doesn't have any gold, and Nixon abolished the gold standard back in I think 71 or 72. There hasn't been any gold according to that. Curious thing, Michael, is there's a guy that used to be the president of the Import-Export Bank under JFK, and he stated back in the 70s on his radio show, BETER is his name, Peter Beater, and he used to state on his show that the Rockefeller sold at a way low under price value to the Rothschild the gold that was supposedly or may have been at one point in Fort Knox. If you remember the trucking convoy that left California was headed for DC. This is kind of within the year of the post lockdown frenzy of COVID. There was this trucker convoy. Initially, it started up in Canada, and then the one route that started here in the States left. I think it was Barlow or one of these Southern California cities, headed for DC. And at one point, as it approached Kentucky, I was speaking to one of the people who was involved in the convoy, and I says, you take part of that train down to Fort Knox, and you demand an audit, right? You demand an audit. You do it peacefully, do it publicly. Don't encroach on anyone's land or trespass, but cause a media frenzy with 50 trucks or something that are demanding an audit of the Fort Knox. That's another thing that doesn't get audited. So to answer your question, it's where exactly is the hiccup if you will, in transparency. Well, we can start there. But the Clintons are part of it. The Bushes certainly are part of it. Trump, is he part of it? Hard to tell, but he's certainly an outsider to where these people are going after this dude, right? I mean, a third attempt on his life, as you said earlier. They hate this guy, and the book that I've authored clearly shows motive and main reason, perhaps, as to why John Brennan hates Donald Trump. They don't want these outsiders in there, and that's why when and if we being the conservatives, I say constitutional Republicans, because that's basically what we are. If we don't win that midterm, they get back into power, they'll come at us with a vengeance. Why? Because they have their global agenda to lose, which I tie directly into USAID and United Nations. We in our Second Amendment are the main threat to this global agenda. And they, they're not going to stop. Well, we won't either.
Yeah, no way. And if that midterm goes bad, I think there's going to be an uprising. So there's and a lot of us have been talking about that. So I think there's motivation, because you look at what Trump and team do. If they'll put something out, and if it doesn't get, like your book, you put your book out, it should have like massive, everybody's talking about it. It should be, all right, let's arrest this guy. We have the evidence here. But there's not a lot of that going on. So Trump and team will put something out, and if it doesn't get a lot of support, they're just not going to do it. That seems to be the way things are. So if a lot of us say, hey, this midterm has to be good, and I think they're moving that direction, they just took away, I think it was the Supreme Court said, you can't, make a district because there's, black folks in it or whatever. That's Civil War time stuff. And so they just got that taken away. So that redistricts a lot of people, throughout the South. And so people that have congressional seats, they're going away, the Democrats. So the Democrats are going to lose a lot of seats. So it looks like they're moving in the right direction. A lot of stuff is, happening in a positive way. But if we don't have fair elections, it won't matter. How many districts are, for GOP, or GOP's, to a certain extent, just as bad. We just need just no GOP, no Democrats. And like Ian, if you wanted to run for president and you have great ideas, you're going to do great things, and people hear about it, you get free press and so forth. Anyone that wants to run for office, and eventually the merit-based people are going to rise to the top, which is what our country is about. So if we don't have that, if we have more selections, we're not going to. I don't think people are going to stand for it, because you have the SAVE Act. 80% of people want SAVE Act passed and aren't passing it. So Congress and the Senate, GOP, Democrats, it doesn't matter. They're not for us. They're for their agenda, like we're talking about.
Yeah, and you mentioned City of London, and let me, something that Speaker Johnson, he says, I don't know if you saw this quote or not, but he says the king. I don't know if him and Camilla are still stateside or not, but he says the king is above politics. I mean, this is the most naive thing to say. He clearly has not done any of his research into, even dating back to Washington, George Washington, and Josh Yoder, who's one of the airline pilots during those lockdowns that stood up to vaccine freedoms, and because they were pushing the deep state, if you will, this global agenda is pushing for vaccination proof before boarding an airline, right? I mean, it's bad enough having to wear masks, but he's an airline pilot, American Airlines, where he stood up against it. But I'm explaining, Michael, the City of London, as you mentioned, I'm explaining this to Josh in San Antonio. This has probably been 3 years, easily 3 years now, 3.5 years. And he says, wait a second. So the United States won its geographic and physical war, but it never won its financial and economic war. And I said, that's exactly right. So Johnson saying the king is above politics, dude. You need to study. You need to study a little bit of history, man, because the king is a puppet, just if you will, allegedly, right, based off of what we've stated here with the Federal Reserve. The king is a political puppet to the same degree, in many regards, that our commander in chief is a political puppet. If right, but we don't know, because we don't know if the Federal Reserve gets audited or not, but we can assume to this City of London banking, international
Absolutely.
banking consortium.
That's it. Yeah. Strait of Hormuz, all everything. They put City of London put the mullahs in power in Iran. They took away their
Wow.
elected government and put the mullahs in there. So yeah, and same thing with China. They own China. So there's a lot of through City of London has control of the financial of the world pretty much. So we have to take that down. And yeah, Johnson, I don't know if he's telegraphing something there, because a lot of these guys will say things that are a lot deeper than they are, but who knows? All right. It's crazy.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, you might roll out the red carpet for this guy just out of courtesy, but
Right.
But he's
Other than that,
he's not
no.
not something to be. That's there's a reason why we don't have a monarchy in the United States, and we certainly don't need to be bowing to one. Not that Johnson bowed to him, but he's lucky he got to speak inside the people's house, as far as I'm concerned. And look, I've been close to the king, if you will. He was then a prince. I was in San Francisco. Gavin Newsom was giving him a tour. I lived in San Francisco for 8 years, and it was funny. Michael said they come down the ferry, and on the Embarcadero, there's the ferry building, which leads right up to Market Street, and he's getting a tour of the ferry building, and the three of them come down the staircase, and there's people lining up to meet and greet, and as the prince is on my right side, so he's on as they're walking through. As he approaches me, he looks at me, and then he crosses over to the other side. He switches places with Camilla. Now, Camilla walked right up to me, shook my hand, said hello. But I think he may have been intimidated. Just my impression. He may have been a little intimidated by this American patriot. Because let's not be mistaken here. It is their full agenda. It is their full agenda to regain control of our 50 what would be colonies today, right? They want to recontrol us, and they are controlling. It seems that way. They're controlling us in many ways, and financially. But we take down Brennan, and dude, we set off a huge alarm that reverberates, knocks down other dominoes.
It'd be huge.
And like Michael Schur said, this is 25 years in the CIA. There's a former chief of Alex Station. He says, you got the tiger by the tail. That's a direct quote on his show. They called the Two Mics. So here we go, man. It's like, dude,
I love you're talking about England, because in your bio on your Ian Trotter Trottier.com, it talks about how you were born here in America, in Oakland, to an American father and a British mother, and then you eventually go back in time, 1646. The Trottier family arrived in North America to Quebec aboard an oceanic vessel. So, and he came from La Rochelle, France. Wow, you have great history here. It's amazing. So it talks about how you, from age 9, you moved from San Francisco back to Salisbury, UK, and you went to Downton. Was that near the Downton Abbey famous place?
No, it's just a small village south of Salisbury called Downton.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, you have some amazing history here. So when you're talking about, the UK, you got a little bit of background going on.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. I lived there for a year, and I've got half of my family. My mother's British, so I've got half of my family that's in both Scotland and in England. And I'll tell you one thing. You know, when I was there as a kid, so when I'd get the rugby ball, like I mean, that was extra. The fact that I was an American, a Yankee, they'd call me the Yankee. The fact that I was a Yankee gave them extra motivation to take me down. And yeah,
The
it's
Brits are like
it,
that. So funny.
what?
So,
Yeah, I
uh,
mean,
you know, during World War II, we came over and flew and helped save them. And they
that's
they
right.
fought with the American flyers all the time in their pubs and stuff. So it's always that back and forth. I've known a lot of Brits over the years and special forces guys, and we always get along really well. But there are groups that are not for us. And have you ever heard of the Pilgrim Society?
I can't say that I have.
Should look that one up. So it's basically founded. Pilgrims. Everybody thinks pilgrim. Oh, that's good, but it was founded, and the people that are in charge of it are for taking down America. And
Oh,
they work very closely with the city of London to do that. So, and there's a lot of high level people that have been in the Pilgrim Society over the years. So, I mean, it's not uncommon for us to see stuff about City of London, trying to disrupt and take down America. And like you said, Federal Reserve, is that part of City of London? I think so. And so we have to identify all these threats and take them out one by one, like Brennan. So Brennan would be a massive domino to fall, and I think that more would fall after that, and they would lose a lot of power. And once they lose that power, then it would be very quick to regain, what we were supposed to be here in America. I think we're still fighting the Revolutionary War. It never ended. The War of 1812. They helped fund the Civil War, and so it's been. And we went over to help them in World War I and World War II. So they've been using us for a long time.
yeah, I would completely agree with everything you said. And
Yeah.
just to re-echo one of one of the things that, well, basically the cornerstone that started me speaking out against corruption in the government, which would be the writings of Anthony Sutton, who himself was a Brit by birth. I think he was born in Southampton, which is actually south of Salisbury on kind of mid island. And he's, I think, UC Riverside teacher, and then Stanford offers him a position at the Hoover Institute. But even Sutton goes back in his book, The Federal Reserve Conspiracy. No theory there. This is what he calls it, a conspiracy. He goes back to how the city of London, so not necessarily the folks that follow the king or are his subjects, because he's subject to the city of London. Sutton talks about Skull and Bones. And Skull and Bones, of course, is that infamous society that George Bush was grilled on prior to becoming elected president, the second George Bush and the first George Bush. They're both
Both of them,
members
yeah.
of that society.
Yeah.
And that has ties to the British East Indies Company, which Elihu Yale, namesake of Yale University, the founder of Yale University, was a major shareholder of the British East Indies Company, which is a Rothschild, basically export, global export company. And Nathan Hale would be another person I talk about in regards to espionage. But they're a major player there. The Skull and Bones there at Yale University. And speaking of Clintons, right? That's where Bill and Hillary, as far as I know, and that's where Bill and Hillary had met. If I may have that wrong, but I think there's a Yale University connection there. So yeah, I agree, completely agree with you. And this is in that the Revolutionary War is an ongoing. It's now a 250-year war. It's hidden, right? It's financial based. It's not physical. There's absolutely you would know better than I, being former military, but I don't think there's any way that the British could even remotely consider taking us on with our military. But so times have changed for them in that regard. But the greater philosophical approaches then to conquest are now financial. And part of that, one of the main tactics would be inserting, which they have successfully, but growing a communist government. So we call it how it is, right? It's a communist government that has infiltrated our constitutional republic. And that's basically what we're looking at in regards to the political divide, in my view, left versus right. You know, you've got kind of conservative right folks that are constitutional Republicans, my view, and then you've got this far left Elon Omar, AOC, these, and even Mondani now, right? You get the mayor of New York, he's a communist. This is a, in my view, Michael, this is a global agenda. This is a tactic of that global agenda driven out of the city of London for conquest. How do you conquer? How do you bring a foe, an enemy, to its knees? Well, you do it in a stealth way. You do it hidden. And we know, going back to Carter, we're talking about Zbigniew Brzezinski. We go back to Carter and say, well, it was under the Carter administration that the Department of Education was created. And there's a whistleblower, if you will, that's now deceased. She lived into her 90s, fortunately. Her name is Charlotte Iserbyt. She wrote a book called The Deliberate Dumbing Down of America. She's exactly that. She talks about the corruption of the Department of Education, and why it was formed in 1979 under Carter.
Yeah, that's a great book, no doubt about it. Dumbing Down of America. Wow. And once you read that, you're like, that's why we're seeing what we're seeing in the educational system, even at higher education. Even higher education is compromised to a great extent as well. So yeah, I mean, Russia, was funded also by the British Empire, the Soviet Union. So the takedown of the Tsar and so forth, the Tsar's family, that was funded. All the top guys lived in Russia, or not Russia, but lived in London for a period of time, and then they were sent back over, and they took down the Russian Empire and brought in communism, which is the greatest control system, manipulation of any system that's out there, and that's what they're trying to do in America, and they're doing a really good job there in New York right now. So I don't know, I don't have great hopes for New York, but unless they get rid of Mamdani, but it looks like that's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's be critical, but I think it's a good thing to be critical. If I was the president, there's no way I'm letting a commie into my Oval Office. There's just simply no way. I'm not letting him into the office. You want to have a meeting, that's great. We can have a meeting outside of it, but you're not stepping foot into the White House. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and again, I think that's part of like I said earlier, Trump lets them expose themselves, and if they're exposed, he'd like hammer Mamdani, and then he had him come to the Oval Office, and it's like, okay, you're gonna do good, aren't you? And he went up there, and he's just destroying everything up there. So, he could have done the right thing, but Trump gave him the. It's kind of like someone that's possessed. They can by demonic forces. They can go to the light if they want, but we can do prayer over them and so forth, but. Ultimately, it's up to that person that's being possessed if they like it or whether they want to throw it off. So we give them an option of throwing that off, and if they don't, then okay, you're compromised and you're not going to come back to the light. So we're gonna bring the light to you, and you're not going to like the way we bring the light to you. So I think that's what we're going to see with the Brennan types and so forth going forward.
Yeah, and another name that I'll mention that folks that haven't read the book yet and are thinking about buying the book, Anwar al-Awlaki. This is an important figure to analyze throughout the book. We talk about him. When I say we, I'm talking about me and my intel source, John. Anwar al-Awlaki was basically a honeypot and used to create these terror cells and terrorists. And this is a CIA asset. Now I know people will disagree with that, and folks that have been in the CIA may disagree with that. But those are my findings. So it's important to consider that, because he's born in New Mexico, right? So This is an American. This is an American that was a Yemeni descent, and he basically became an enemy to the country. Even though it's a difficult argument to make because he, of course, was an American citizen. But that's another thing to consider, right, in regards to citizenship and what that means, and anchor babies and people manipulating and using that system. And he'd be an example of perhaps the CIA doing that same thing to manipulate our own system for their own benefit. Because I think you may know this, Michael, but I think the CIA is referred to as the company in some circles. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guy like that, I saw a lot of this. So it's not uncommon for them to have assets. The FBI as well. You know, there's all these undercover cops that go into drug groups, and you know they do drugs, and they you know ride the Harleys and all that kind of stuff, and grow their hair out long, wrap beards, and you know dress crazily, right? I guess like bikers, and but they're gathering information that's going to take down these organizations. And I've read about a lot of these guys. Wow, that's crazy life. If they find out that you're you know somebody that's you know come in, they'll chop you up in pieces. And I've heard a lot of these people that were close to that point, but they were able to get out of it. So unbelievable stuff. It's almost like, you know, God was on their side. So yeah, I've seen this overseas in a lot of these Middle Eastern countries where case officers will be working different assets, and that's how we find terrorists. You know, from you know guys that tell us, yeah, this guy's doing this, and I'm going to go meet him here, and they're like, okay, where is he going to be, when? So, and then you know that's a drone strike. So there's a lot of that's going on. So it's not uncommon for you know the CIA to use those guys and to protect them to their best ability. And I remember one time we had this one guy that we were working with in Pakistan. He was like giving us all kind of people. He was amazing. I can't say who gave it away. It might give him up, but he was just, and he's like, next, let's go, come on. He was like driving everybody. I was like, come on, I want to get more of these people. And so there was one time where I was like watching him, because we would have him go to one place and we'd like watch and make sure he wasn't falling, send him to another place when, you know, he's on the phone and stuff. And so he came to the place where I was overlooking, and it looked like ISI was onto him. And I was like, God, I don't want this guy to like get taken down. But fortunately, they were just there to do something else, and they didn't even notice him. So then he goes off to the next spot. And I talked about it. I was like, God, I was thinking, you know, maybe I should go down and like try to intervene. And I remember the chief of base was like, she like rolled her eyes. She's like, no, never. So I learned in that moment that everybody's expendable. So they'll use somebody, me included, you, American people, it doesn't matter, for their whatever their goals are. And if they get something from them, they'll continue to use them, and they'll protect them. But if they become, you know, to the point where maybe the press or somebody else, you know, starts to disclose their activities, they'll create something where they go bye-bye, right? So that's unfortunate. That's that system. That system as a whole needs to go away as well. But once you understand it, you'll understand a lot more of what they're doing. And Brennan and these kind of people, that they use everyone, and even they know they're expendable as well to the people that are above them.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I think it's impressive, Michael, that you have repeatedly gone through the various chapters. This is actually some of the greatest feedback that I've been given, because I haven't connected yet with folks that have gone through the information in the book, and to know that you're gaining information, right, with your experience and your exposure and what you've done in your life, to know that you're going through and grabbing various bits of information and repeatedly going through chapters. That's pretty cool, man. I appreciate that. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a
I
country
mean, look at all the
appreciates
people that spoke highly about your book. Yeah, I'm speaking highly about it, but you have everybody, saying, "God, this is amazing." So, I mean, your background, the stuff that you have incredible background, and the stuff that you've been doing. Trump said you're a fighter, so everybody's behind you. You're like, yeah, left hook, good. So you have a lot of people that are behind you. It's a challenge at this point, as I've learned, to get this information out. So we can have this could be a great podcast. It'll be seen by tens of thousands of people, which I'm sure it will be, and it should be hundreds of thousands. But there's only a certain audience that's open to this at this point. But we need more. We need more people to wake up to this and get involved, because it really makes a difference. Because if we don't take John Brennan down, we don't have a country going forward. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree. It's gonna, you can't get to the Clintons. I mean, we saw what a mockery they basically made of that. What was it, the House Select Committee, or
Right.
that interviewed them? And I mean, just the fact, Michael, just the fact that the Clintons made them, come to the Clintons, right? So they made the committee members actually travel to suit their convenience. No. You come to me, right? You come to DC, you sit down where I tell you to sit down. And these people are so soft. I hate to say it. Anna Paulina Luna is great. She does her work. It's like, no. You don't negotiate. There are crimes that have been committed on the American people. They need to be held accountable. And so the Clintons, they're just, they've got the legal power, and they got their political machine that still exercises and runs. And that's why I use the word mockery. I mean, they make a complete mockery of our members of Congress to cater to them, right? And then Clinton blows a fuse when I think it was Anna Paulina Luna, or somebody records something. They say, "Oh no, there's no video allowed in here." Why not? We should have had all major media with live cameras. I mean, why was that closed? This shouldn't have been closed.
They still have that power. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Trump can't be a king, but they are kings and queens.
Trump, yeah, and they can refer to the king as being above politics, dude. I mean, what is he? Is he a god to you? Is that? I mean, that statement just did not sit well with me. But no, the king is not.
And where were the
politics.
demonstrations for when the king and queen were there? There's no kings, right? So paid protest. They're not gonna. That's only for when they're trying to take somebody out of office, like Trump. So
yeah. It's only for who they think is a dictator, right? And then they equate him to a king. It's ironic. It's absurd on so many levels. But I mean, that's what I think. I would agree with you. We take this guy Brennan out, and we're taking out the most critical member or link to the deep state, because
Absolutely.
He's certainly right involved in that machine. And I don't know what Roger Stone has been saying. His name's on the cover. And let me make this very clear. Let me make it very clear. Initially, General Flynn was going to write the foreword to this book, and he requested that I send him the manuscript or the information that I had. I think it was a chapter outline. He'd actually agreed to write the foreword, and then his schedule got busy. And it's General Flynn. He's a big deal. So, but the fact that Mike was considering writing the foreword, I was at an event at Mar-a-Lago, and Stone was there, and I was able to to spend a few moments with Roger and I. As soon as I mentioned the name John Brennan, he's like, "Send me over what you got." And Roger Stone suggested that I have him write the forward. And my first reaction, Michael, was, wait a second, I've already got Flynn that's going to write this. And then he says, no, you think about it. You should have me write the forward. And because Flynn's schedule was uncommitted to submitting a forward, I went with Roger. And as you and I both know, John Kiriakou has written one of the forwards in this book. There's 3 forwards. The other guy is Brooks Agnew, who's just a brilliant person. He's a former speechwriter for Alan Keyes, amongst many other things. But so there's 3 forwards in this book, and we have seen, Kiriakou, of course, speaking out against Brennan and stating that John Brennan destroyed his career in the CIA. It was John Brennan that did that. And look, Michael, I didn't know that. Kiriakou is the guy that I had on my podcast when I was on Wynwood Radio in Miami. This is a number of years ago, over like 6 years ago. Kiriakou is a guy that joined Discussions of Truth, and he's just a guy that I kind of kept up with a little bit throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'd gotten a contract to get this published, I needed some endorsement, some quotes of endorsement, and because of my rapport with John, I approached him. And dude, he's just like, his schedule has gotten crazy busy since then, and especially since the 3 of us did that podcast a few months ago.
A great podcast. Wow. Yeah, John Kiriakou, I mean, he's crushing it out there. He's like revealing so many good truths. So that was very revelatory when he came on the show with us and talked about how John Brennan had destroyed his career. Once he started to the waterboarding and all that kind of stuff, he's like, shouldn't be doing that. And then they came after him and destroyed his career.
Yeah, and spent 1.5 years in prison. But viewers of this should definitely be following, some of the stuff that he's saying, because he's like right into kind of the main wedge within the Trump administration that's angling to figure out how to take Brennan on. And I don't know how the contents of this book shape up in that. I know that, we went over that quote, so we know that Kiriakou has had a nice endorsement to say about the book, and not realizing the power behind what Brennan had created for himself. But yeah, I mean, it's this is potentially a game changer, and there's no reason why it won't become that. I mean, this should completely alter the forward trajectory of the Republic. And getting back to your comment, allowing it to develop the way that it was designed to grow and develop.
Yeah. And I believe that you've laid the foundation. We're going to look back on this at some point when he gets taken down. We're going to look at your book and your work and go, you laid the foundation, Ian, and that's how we were able to move forward and take him down. So thank you so much for your work and your time. I hope that we have you on in a couple of weeks talking about John Brennan, being indicted. And so it's like, what is taking so long? But I think we're close. I hope we are.
Yeah, that'd be great. Mike Davis is a guy that I've been in contact with. He's working closely. He's Article 3 project with the Brennan subpoena. Jason Quinones is a guy I mentioned. I haven't been able to get to him yet. Judge Cannon is the judge overseeing it in Fort Pierce. And Chuck Grassley, right, in the Senate. There's some other folks there. And then, again, importantly, that might hopefully transpire between now and then, the next time I join you, would be the ethics, the House Ethics Committee. So it looks like that might be another angle to approach to get members of Congress to look into this. So there might be a ethics committee complaint developing in regards to John Brennan. We'll see, but that's something that just came my way.
Good.
just a few hours ago. So
That's how it starts. Starts there. Good, good. All right, Ian. Thanks so much. High Stakes Treason. And you have another book coming out too?
yeah, I mean, it's in my forecast to simply work on a second edition of this that would encompass all of the different kind of legs of the Brennan creature. And right now this book just kind of it just talks about the CT Intel monopoly as I refer to it, along with John Donovan, which is really the hero in all of this. He's the guy that is the hero. I'm just the megaphone.
Nice.
And so that second edition would incorporate, Patrick Byrne, voter fraud, Zygmunt Brzezinski, kind of taking our historical. But I've spent a little bit of time. I was hoping to have something out by this summer. I doubt that's going to happen. So hopefully the pressure that is applied on the alternative subpoena components, which I believe should be this book, right? The contents of it. Once that pressure kind of releases, and there's some powerful pens at work, then I can kind of pull back and work on that second edition. We'll see. I mean, that's just, but that's second book. That's I don't know when I'll have that finished.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to it. Maybe a Christmas special. Get
Yeah,
both books.
yeah.
So highstakestreason.com, everyone, and iantrottier.com. Also another place where you can find Ian's work. And of course, Amazon has the book, and probably Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble probably has it too.
Yeah, the online outlets have
all the online. Good, very good.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Thanks so much. Really enjoyed our conversations. Fantastic.